You think you know him? Alright, you tell me his 10 greatest rivals then if you know him so well. Go on, let me see the comments. The artist formerly known as Edge is about to go on the run that will likely cap off his incredible wrestling career, and thus we thought it would be a good time to look back on the career of the rated R superstar Adam Copeland. Still not getting used to that anytime soon. Of course, in 1 or 2 years' time, we might be looking at an influx of AEW stars on this list, especially if that MJF picture ever resurfaces on TV, but for now, let's take a look back on the rivals that have meant the most to the career of my favorite wrestler of all time. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 greatest rivals of Edge's career. But before we get on with our list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you never miss a fun video just like it, much like the return of fantasy booking warfare here on partsFUNknown. Check out this clip at the end of the video. Number 10, Christian. Currently, there is about a 50-50 chance that this entry could shoot up the list depending on what direction All Elite Wrestling goes in their current story. Edge could end up having a fantastic rivalry with a Christian Cage that is on the run of his career, or they could end up teaming together once again as Copeland said he wanted to do in his AEW debut promo. As I list this list, however, there is only their WWE rivalry to work with, one that is shockingly short for how much weight it carries. Maybe the greatest tag team of the Attitude Era, Edge and Christian had reached the heights they were going to reach by mid-2001 and began to go their separate ways with loads of teases and errant spears, particularly at SummerSlam. And then Christian joined the Alliance for some reason after faking a phone call from police saying their mom had been in an accident. Yeah, remember when these guys were brothers? It's okay, WWE doesn't remember that either. 2001 Invasion bollocks aside, Christian and Edge had a fun little rivalry over the Intercontinental Championship, including a pretty darn good ladder match where Christian destroys his gooch, but while they never had the rivalry you think they would have had in WWE, their split helped give Edge his first major step up the card as a single star. If Christian brings up Copeland's dad, this is number 1 though. Number 9, Eddie Guerrero. The SmackDown 6, the mortal enemies of Spider-Man united together in a wrestling ring, because Edge loves Spider-Man, you see. Anyway, there was a lot of anticipation for Edge and Eddie Guerrero to get in the ring together in 2002, and for very good reason. It may have taken a couple of very good pay-per-view matches to finally get their chemistry, but when they finally had their rivalry-defining no DQ match on SmackDown, they hit the bullseye within the bullseye, resulting in one of the very best matches in SmackDown history. The rivalry continued in the tag division as the SmackDown 6 truly took form, with Edge and Rey Mysterio taking on Los Guerreros, resulting in more great TV, but Edge and Eddie's one-on-one battles only helped to elevate both men, and had Edge not injured his neck and stayed on SmackDown where he could have had even more matches with Latino heat, I have no doubt this would be even higher on this list. Number 8, Kurt Angle. Speaking of the SmackDown 6, in the months leading up to the brand split, we saw 2 of the future faces of SmackDown going toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose, flowing locks to bald head. This was the shot in the arm that Edge needed as a single star after an underwhelming shampoo-based battle with Booker T at WrestleMania. At Backlash, Edge faced Kurt Angle, a man with whom he'd shared plenty of laughs and history with, including Edge beating him for the King of the Ring the previous year. And they had a match that to this day I think is the best example I have ever seen of someone getting over in defeat. Edge tries his best in a fantastic match, only to come up just short of Kurt Angle, one of the best in the world. It is a great piece of business, made all the better when Edge got the win in their rematch the following month at Judgment Day, maybe the best singles match Edge had during his first WWE run. Someone having their best match with Kurt Angle, who'da thunk? This was a very difficult list to make, as I had to put this feud with Angle at only number 8 despite how much I love it, but that just means Edge has had 7 more incredible rivalries even better than this. Number 7, the Hardys and the Dudleys. I thought long and hard about how to incorporate these 2 teams into this list before coming to the conclusion of, f it, they're both on in one entry. While you can certainly look at the matches that Edge, Christian, and the Hardys had at No Mercy and Unforgiven, or the matches they had with the Dudleys at the Royal Rumble in isolation, in many people's eyes this is a 3-way feud between the teams that define not only the Attitude Era, but a style of wrestling that the future generations of wrestling are still emulating. It wasn't a secret that these teams were insanely talented, but until they all got in the ring together at WrestleMania, their WWE legacies hadn't been defined. WrestleMania 2000, SummerSlam 2000, WrestleMania X7. 3 absolutely insane matches, each more dangerous than the last, and they get a little bit of extra juice on this list because who won all 3? Edge and Christian. It was in the feud with these two teams that Edge and Christian really came into their own as entertainers as well. The 5-second poses, crazy glasses, and outfits all came to be because of all this. And honestly, it really is hard to say two of these teams without saying the third in the same breath. Number 6, Seth Rollins. When Edge came back to WWE in 2020, the match at the top of everyone's dream match list for him was Seth Rollins. Not only because he had been one of the best in-ring performers in WWE of the last decade, but also because of the lore. When Seth was the Authority's golden goose, it was Edge's neck he threatened to break in order to coerce John Cena into reinstating his superiors. The WWE fans never forget, and they wanted to see Edge get his revenge nearly 7 years later when he and Seth finally crossed paths in 2021. I can also say without question, this is the best rivalry of Edge's WWE tenure. It had plenty of great moments and promos, but the matches were absolutely superb. Whether it be their SummerSlam banger, the rematch on SmackDown with Seth sending Edge off on a stretcher, or their rubber match inside Hell in a Cell, the first great blow-off cell match in Lord knows how long, and the best Saudi Arabia match as well. All equal the best work Edge did post-retirement. This is exactly the kind of thing I wanted to see when Edge came back, and I'm just a little bit sad we didn't get to see more like it. Number 5, Randy Orton. Boring pandemic WrestleMania match aside, Edge and Randy Orton actually had really good chemistry together throughout their careers. They had feuds in 2004, 2007, 2010, and 2020, and if that doesn't tell you how confident WWE was in putting them together, I don't know what will. And those rivalries took place at every step of their career journeys, as up-and-comers, emerging main eventers, established main eventers, and legends. The summer of 2004 saw Edge and Orton have some tremendously underrated clashes over the Intercontinental Championship, and then a couple of years later united as Rated RKO against the common enemy of DX before their rapid split. It was in those 2007 matches, when both men had already been world champions, that they once again could steal the show, having an awesome match the day after Backlash on Raw. And while I do think their 2020 rivalry gets memed on more than remembered fondly for their slow walk around the Performance Center and the greatest match in the history of wrestling matches to ever happen anywhere in the universe, the promos and character work from both men prior to lockdown are absolutely worth remembering. Number 4, Mick Foley. When Edge won the WWE Championship for the first time, it was very clearly done to tie up the loose end of his Money in the Bank contract. He only had 2 months before Mania, and WWE had other plans, so he got a 3-week run, and then it was back to Cena and Triple H. This did not sit well with Edge, who had been waiting years for his big break, and focused that energy on his WrestleMania rivalry with Mick Foley. A rivalry that resulted in one of Edge's most iconic WrestleMania stealing performances. But this rivalry and match don't just get points for being iconic because, let's be honest, Edge has had loads of iconic moments. It also gets points for the statement that it sent to WWE. Edge would not be content to slip back down the card. He was going to continue to be as undeniable a main event talent as WWE had at the time, and Mick Foley was the perfect rival to prove that point with. Foley, who considered Edge the best wrestler in the industry at the time, took him into WrestleMania and had one of the most hardcore of hardcore matches ever to happen under the WWE umbrella, putting Edge into tacks and falling through fire together on their quest to make a star. Number 3, Matt Hardy. I think this is the first time that a tag team and a member of that tag team have featured separately on one of these lists, but in this case, I think it is absolutely necessary. Now, there are a lot of things wrong with how all of this was handled. Their SummerSlam match is a blood-stained pile of trash that completely killed the audience's heat for this real-life blood feud, but there are still good matches to come after. Their steel cage match at Unforgiven is probably Matt's biggest ever WWE win and a great match, and their Raw Street Fight and ladder match were also both fun. But honestly, this entry isn't even about matches or promos. These boys were just straight beefing. This is as real life a rivalry as you will find on this list, or on most lists for that matter, and even if it didn't always translate to great TV, it is still regarded by many as one of the most legendary rivalries of the Ruthless Aggression era. Number 2, The Undertaker. It may be one thing to be taken seriously as a WWE main eventer, but when you are the guy trusted with a 15-month-long storyline resulting in 5 pay-per-view matches including a WrestleMania main event with The Undertaker, that is when you truly know you have made it. Starting in 2007, Edge made Undertaker's life miserable at every turn. He cashed in Money in the Bank in May, cost Taker the big gold belt inside Hell in a Cell at Survivor Series, and cloned himself twice to ensure he became world champion at Armageddon. all building to a main event clash at WrestleMania 24. This was, in many ways, the peak of the Ultimate Opportunist character, always finding some way to eke out wins in matches he had no business winning until The Undertaker finally got him in a fair fight. That Mania match is highly underrated, resulting in Taker reaching 16-0, but they didn't stop there, with Edge getting his win back in a TLC match before finally being dispatched to an actual Christian depiction of hell at SummerSlam. Look at him being poked and prodded down there. This is probably the greatest storyline that Edge had ever been part of in WWE, with Vicky Guerrero and La Familia backing him up, and it is pretty safe to say that for this 15-month window, Edge was the top heel in the company, feuding with the baddest babyface in the land to boot. And number 1, John Cena. Edge's old shoe. John Cena and Edge both slot in as the other's top rival of all time, and for very good reason. Edge could always get fantastic performances out of Cena at a time when not everyone could say that, and Cena elevated Edge to the main event level with an all-time classic feud. I mean, how much more legit can you get than Edge slapping John Cena Sr. and getting tossed in the Long Island Sound for his trouble? Ignore their great SummerSlam and Unforgiven matches, that's real beef. This was Edge's first real chance to make it as a main event superstar, and he made the most out of it with WWE's hand-picked poster boy, so that by the time they found their way back to each other in 2009, they were on more equal footing and able to play with years of backstory. Edge's promo on Cena telling him that he hates him and everything he stands for is particularly hard-hitting while being almost scarily calm, but it all led to their climactic match in a last man standing match at Backlash, an actually good last man standing match, where Big Show exploded John Cena and Edge went on his merry way. The only thing that would have made them even better rivals would have been them ending their WWE careers together, but as we've seen, neither man is quite ready to hang up those old shoes yet. And that's our list. Please make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on, and check out this clip from the first episode of Fantasy Booking Warfare.
And worst of all, Dominic Mysterio is your new United States champion. But MVP knows amongst all this hurt, there's business to be done. The Judgment Day is celebrating Dirty Dom's title win in the ring.